Has your period stopped for over a year, maybe even several, and suddenly you notice bleeding again? This is something I get asked about a lot. It can be surprising, even easy to ignore, especially if it's not heavy. But here's the thing, postmenopausal bleeding should always be checked out, even if it turns out to be nothing serious. So let's break down what might be behind it, from common manageable reasons to the more serious causes you shouldn't overlook. What is postmenopausal bleeding? So after 12 months, you are considered postmenopausal. So any bleeding afterwards is called postmenopausal bleeding. So it might be something as light spotting, it might be a pink or brown discharge, it might be a flow that's similar to an ordinary period. It could also be heavy bleeding and clots. So when do you see your doctor? Simply anytime this happens. So it doesn't matter which of these symptoms you get, even if it's a very short spotting for 24 hours only. And especially if it happens again, or if you're getting heavy continual bleeding, or you're getting maybe an unusual discharge and smell along with it. And if you're getting pain, that's really important too. So what can cause this? There can be a number of reasons. Most of them are totally harmless rather than being serious. And I know for me, in my experience over the years, I find that an awful lot of women will get a period or a bleed of some kind between the end of the first year and the second year. So after 2 years of no periods, that's what I tend to call postmenopausal. But the most common one is that even after a year or more without periods, your hormones can still fluctuate a little bit. So there can be tiny fluctuations, but that can be enough to trigger just a normal period or a little bit of spotting now and again. The other thing it can be is what we call vaginal dryness. So the vaginal walls can start to dry, they get less flexible, they can get very thin, and they can tear really easily. And that can be a common trigger for a little bit of spotting. This can happen especially after intercourse, and also exercise. We find that this can happen quite a lot, especially if you start a new regime as well and yet your body's not quite used to all that extra movement. It can be HRT, and so many women don't realize that if you start HRT, it's going to raise up your hormone levels, and that can be enough to trigger a bleed. The important thing here is, if you're going on HRT, ask first if you're likely to get a bleed at all, so that you're prepared. If you do start HRT and you bleed, just make sure that you find out whether this is a common thing that happens to start with, or whether your doctor needs to investigate. Other reasons you need to be aware of are symptoms such as polyps, cysts, fibroids, and also a prolapse. So all of these can cause spotting or bleeds, and sometimes a lot of discomfort as well. There can also be something called endometrial hyperplasia. It's a big word. So all that's happening there is that the womb is starting to thicken unnaturally. Usually with that, if there is a bleed, your doctor will get everything checked out for you and will usually monitor the situation. The other thing that is very rare, but I know it's a really big worry for everybody, if you get the postmenopausal bleeding, you can worry that it can be things like cancer, either ovarian or cervical cancer. And this is why it's so important to get checked out straight away, just to stop you from worrying about what it's probably not. So if you do notice a bleed, don't panic, because remember, in the majority of cases, it can be something really very simple, but at the same time, don't ignore it. And as I mentioned before, most situations are not serious, but the earlier you get this treated or seen to, the less you are going to worry. And if in the small chance there is something serious, you're going to get it checked and sorted. In this situation, as we go through the menopause, our body is still talking to us. So it's sending little subtle messages and sometimes not so subtle messages. So listening to your body when something like this happens is really an important and powerful act of self-care. So I hope you found this one helpful. As I've mentioned before, over the years, one of the things I found, this is one of the most common questions I get asked, and it happens on a very regular basis. Has this happened to you? What happened? What did you do? What was the outcome? Please share your stories. I'd love to listen to them. And your comments and your advice can help other women as well. Have a lovely week, and I'll see you soon.